It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
A very typical, not surprising, disgraceful performance by the New York Mets. There is no team that I have ever watched that follows up a good victory and spoils it as horribly as the 2025 New York Mets. A Friday night in Miami, the future of your postseason in your hands. You don't have to rely on anybody else. All you've got to do is go to Miami and beat the Miami Marlins. That's all you got to do. All you got to do is play a good, sound, fundamental game. That's all you got to do. When you get guys on base early, take advantage of it. That's all you got to do. And instead, after the Mets put together the most typical 2025 performance, here we are, disgusted, distraught, ready to blow the whole thing up, and sitting here watching Brewers Reds praying for a miracle, watching Diamondbacks Padres and praying for a miracle. We are doing this Rico Brogna episode 558. I'd say about 20 minutes or so after the Mets lost to the Miami Marlins listlessly 6-2. I'm simultaneously watching Brewers Reds, in which the Brewers have been completely mowed down by Cincinnati pitching. They trail 3-1 in the eighth inning. So the Brewers have 6 outs to rally and save our asses, as if we deserve to have our asses saved. So consider this a Rico Brogna, we suck, so we have to rely on other teams' watch party. A far cry from back in December when we had a Juan Soto wait party. But let's get to this game. Let's break this game down, because I heard talking about it makes you feel better. I heard talking about it and bitching about it and whining about it makes you feel better. And I assume everybody joining us on a Friday night, live on YouTube, or downloading this bad boy on a Saturday morning, it's got to be all Met fans that are distraught. I'm sure there are no Yankee fans that are like, let me laugh at those clowns. Let me go laugh at our douchey, confused cousins who are choking away a playoff spot. So we'll talk about it. Let's start with the way this game began. And if you've watched this team all year, you knew there were warning signs early that this was going to be a bad night. Francisco Lindor hits a second pitch leadoff home run. I am fired up. Aren't we all? Aren't we thinking that's our captain? That's our leader? Setting the tone. Like he tried to do 3 days ago against Chicago. Remember that? Remember when he began this whole road trip with a home run? It quickly got wiped away, but at least he attempted to set the tone nicely for the New York Mets. He hits that home run, and it's all good. Juan Soto dumps the base hit behind in the count. It's all good. Soto steals second, which puts him a little bit closer to 40-40, which is really what he wants. So, hey, at least he may get that, just not a playoff appearance. When Juan Soto steals second base and the Mets have a runner on second and nobody out, we're all thinking the same thing. They have to score this run. And luckily, Pete Alonso, who did not have a great night, but at least in the first inning, he had a great moment, behind in the count, rips an RBI double. It's 2-0. We are fired up. And from that moment on, every warning sign was there that this was going to be a bad night. Because with a runner on second and less than 2 outs, and Jeff McNeil and Brett Beatty coming up, you're thinking what I'm thinking. You got to jump even more on Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara is one of those aces who, while he hasn't been an ace this year because he came into this start with a 5.48 ERA, we kind of know who he is. 2 years ago, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. He got hurt. He needed Tommy John surgery. And he's been so much better over his last 7 starts where you've seen the signs that Sandy Alcantara's back. And so I say that because early in a game, you got to jump on him and you can't let him up. It's like any other ace that you face. You get to him, you got to get to him early. You got to be relentless. You can't let them off the hook, because if you let a good pitcher off the hook, what do? Well, you saw what they do. So with a runner on second and one out, Jeff McNeil had a big at-bat. Well, what else is new? Jeff McNeil has been lost for weeks now. He's been one of the bats that has disappeared. So he grounds out to first base in a 3-1 hitters count. And then Brett Beatty, who's very tough to criticize, especially now that he's hurt, more on that injury in a little bit, grounds out weakly. That's warning sign number one. Like, overall, you still scored 2 runs in the first inning off of Sandy Alcantara, so you feel good. You feel, all right, not bad. But in the second inning of this game, and this is bad luck. This isn't even me whining or bitching about anything. We'll do more of that later. This was just bemoaning the bad luck that you can face. You get a leadoff hit from Francisco Alvarez, who's DHing in this game, after Cedric Mullins, in the most unshocking thing ever, strikes out. Who saw that coming? I mean, I'm stunned that Cedric Mullins struck out with 1 on and nobody out. I was thinking slightly, would I bunt with him because he's so useless? Doesn't make sense to bunt with your 9th place hitter coming up, Luis Torrens. But nevertheless, it would have been more productive than Cedric Mullins striking out. But Torrens gets a base hit. They got 2 on. They got 1 out for Lindor. And it's just bad luck. It's another sign that maybe this is not our year when he lines into a double play. I think he swung at a 3-1 pitch that was off the plate. Would have been ball 4. Would have loaded the bases up for Juan. So we could criticize him for that. But honestly, he hit the ball hard, and it was bad luck, and it turned into a double play. But the real killer to me was the next inning. I mean, think about the way these innings are going against Sandy Alcantara. You get 2 in the first inning, you leave a guy on base. You get 2 on in the second, and it's only bad luck that keeps you from scoring runs. But I'm sitting there, you're sitting there, and we're loving what Brandon Sproat's doing early in this game. But you knew they weren't winning this game 2-0. You knew they needed to score more runs. You knew they needed to take advantage of early opportunities against Sandy Alcantara. And the real opportunity that they done effed up was what happened in the 3rd inning. Juan Soto leads off with a hit. And what does he do? He steals second base. Great. I don't mind Juan Soto running when it's important steals, when it's productive steals, when it's not stat padding steals. Juan Soto had 2 stolen bases in this game, and they were both important. And they were both good stolen bases, and they were both, helpful stolen bases. After Brandon Nimmo, again, hard contact, bad luck, flies out to center field and moves Soto to third, you have a runner on third base with less than 2 outs. And this is where I talked to my good buddy Pete Alonso, who I thought had a miserable game, despite the RBI double in the first inning. Hit the effing ball. That's it. We'd all love a 2-run home run. We don't need a 2-run home run. We need you, Peter Jefferson Aloysius Alonso, to hit the baseball and at least tack on another run. That's it. That's what we're looking for. By the way, as I say this, the Cincinnati Reds are 3 outs away from taking control of this wild card race. They lead the Brewers 3-1. And Pete Alonso, in what was a non-inspiring at-bat, strikes out. And that was the at-bat. I'm telling you right now, that was the at-bat that changed everything. Because Sandy Alcantara was giving up hard contact. Sandy Alcantara was getting hit. The Nimmo sac fly was hit very hard. But from the moment that Alonso came up with a runner on third and less than 2 outs, think about what Sandy would do for the rest of our miserable effing evening. Strikeout, strikeout, ground out, walk. Ground out, 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 walk, showers. Pete Alonso let him off the hook. He wasn't the only one, because after he strikes out, Jeff McNeil is allowed to get a 2-out hit. It's okay. He can do that. But this isn't July. This is September. This is a pennant race. And Jeff McNeil, like many other New York Mets, has disappeared in this pennant race. So what does he do? He strikes out. And you knew it was a bad sign You were deeply concerned that at 2-0 in a game that should have been 5-0 or 4-0, but something more than 2-0, you just knew this isn't good. You weren't sure what it would look like, but you knew this wasn't good. So I start with the offense. You're damn right I start with the offense. This is a team that needs to score runs. They scored 2 runs in the first inning. They're hitting balls hard off of Sandy Alcantara, and they let him off the hook. And what does it turn into? A 7-inning, 2-run performance. Sandy Alcantara got a standing ovation as he walked off the mound of Lone Depot Park. One can only pray that the Marlins get him out of the division so the Mets don't have to see him. And maybe, dare I say maybe, he'll end up with us. Probably not, but one can only hope. Because Sandy Alcantara is everything the Mets don't have. A reliable innings eater who pounds the strike zone, who pitches to contact, who gives you 7 innings, which is what he did, and pitched into the 8th inning. So before we get to Sproat, Mendoza, and this bullpen, the headline from game 160 is that the offense, like always is too strong, like many times this season, has disappeared. We're going to have quite a lot of time to talk about what went wrong with this freaking franchise and what went wrong with this team and what went wrong with this season, the lobotomy of the 2025 Mets season. And we're all going to argue with each other, right? Some are going to say it's all the starting pitching's fault. It's all Mendoza's fault. It's this, it's that. The offense was never good enough. I will die on that sword. Yes, they had a very big month of August, and it was derailed by starting pitching, sure. But overall, this offense has not been good enough. And it's infuriating because individually, Lindor's had a fine year. Soto's had a fine year. Alonso's had a fine year. Nimmo's had a fine year. So how does it all make sense when your core 4 or your whatever Steve Cohen was calling them, how do you explain them all having really good years and the Mets just not scoring enough runs and being inconsistent offensively and having too many games like this where they score runs early and they disappear? But that's what happened. I don't want to be right, but when I made my FanDuel pick last night, for those that watched it on social media or on YouTube or downloaded it on the Rico Brogna podcast, I took the under on Mets runs, which was 4.5. I won it easily because they are the most predictable team in the world. They are so predictable, and they don't have any answers. I watched Carlos Mendoza's postgame. It's why we started the Rico a few minutes late, because I needed to hear what he had to say. I needed to hear what he would try to tell us. He doesn't have any answers. And for a lot of these issues, it isn't him. I'll admit that. This offense is not all on him. But I wonder about some of the defensive miscues that continue to haunt this team. I wonder about Gregory Soto having no idea that maybe he should hold a runner on. Or Ronnie Mauricio having his head up his ass and not realizing maybe he should cover third. This is routine. This is what the Mets do. But one last thought about the offense before we turn our attention to Sproat, Mendoza, the pitching, and all sorts of other things. The other Pete Alonso moment from this game, where he came up so small in such a big opportunity, was the 8th inning of this game. Yes, they're down 6-2. Yes, we have all kind of come to grips with the fact that we need to pray to the altar of the Milwaukee Brewers to help us, deliver us from choke. But they put together a little rally in the 8th inning. It was the only time the offense showed a pulse since the blown opportunity of the 3rd inning. Since the 3rd inning, they only had one base runner. So when Lindor leads off the 8th inning with a walk, tries to pump the dugout up like, all right, boys, let's go. This was their moment. Soto taps out. Okay, a little tapper back to the mound. And then the moment of opportunity. Brandon Nimmo hits a ground ball to second base, and for whatever reason, Xavier Edwards does a no-look glove toss to Otto Lopez. And Otto Lopez can't catch it. By the way, quick aside, Keith Hernandez would not be happy with me, but good news is he doesn't even know the Rico Brogna exists. But that's an error on the shortstop, Otto Lopez. Keith was freaking out. It's on Xavier Edwards. They were being biased towards the fact that Edwards was showboating, and he was, and he shouldn't have. Completely agree. But the ball went off the glove of Lopez. He needs to make that catch. That's an E6. But Keith disagrees with me. The official score disagrees with me. Ron Darling disagrees with me. Whatever. Maybe I'm an idiot. Oh, I am an idiot. I'm a Met fan. I still sit here every day trying to convince myself, oh, maybe they'll get in. Ooh. And maybe they'll get hot. Ooh. So I am a moron. I apologize. But after that error, with 2 on and 1 out, this is your moment to make them pay. This is your opportunity. Very similar to a few days ago against Chicago when Dansby Swanson made the error and opened up the opportunity for the Mets to rally, which they ultimately did. This was their shot. And I thought Pete Alonso's at-bat against the immortal Cade Gibson was pathetic. It was a terrible at-bat. Think about strike 1. Waving very meekly at a slider. The Alonso 8th inning at-bat was a missed opportunity. And then credit to Jeff McNeil. He actually puts together a good at-bat drawing a walk, and it sets up our last gasp. It sets up what could have been Ronnie Mauricio, could have been Brett Beatty, and turned into Mark Vientos with the bases loaded. Obviously, Brett Beatty got hurt early in this game. He grounded out in the first inning, and you could tell there was something off with his side. It looks like it's an oblique. He's done. Let's just be real. That's not about being negative. I'm so negative. You know what I am? I'm realistic. But anyhow, I think just looking at what it appeared to be and listening to Mendoza after the game, look, the rest of the season is only 2 games. I think we all know, and we've known this for a while, even after their good victories, they're not going to the playoffs. I think that's pretty obvious to all of us. So out for the season is 2 days. It sounds worse than it is, but it sucks. It sucks for us because Beatty has defended very well at third base. He's hit a big home run the other night. It sucks, but he's out. And so Ronnie Mauricio coming into the game, I think answers an email question that I talked about yesterday, which was, hey, why is Ronnie Mauricio still on the roster? The guy never plays. They should have kept Jose Siri and set Ronnie Mauricio down. That's why you keep him on the roster. He is still a backup player who could come in at any moment at third base, shortstop, or second base. So Mauricio versus a lefty, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. You know that the Marlins are Clayton McCullough's going to a righty, but you're going to take Vientos versus a righty over Mauricio versus a lefty any day of the week, considering how much Ronnie has struggled from that side of the plate. And Vientos had a shot. Look, Mark Vientos has shown us before he can give you the clutch moment. It didn't happen there. And he pops up the shortstop, and we all kind of knew handwriting's on the wall. They're not making a comeback in the 9th, which they didn't, and they were going to lose this game. So that's the rip of the offense. Let me get to Brandon Sproat. Look, Brandon Sproat was throwing a really strong effort. He was helped out a little bit, like the first batter of the game. Jacob Marcy hit one that I thought was getting out. It went all the way to the fence, and luckily Cedric Mullins caught it. But he worked through hitting Xavier Edwards with 2 outs. He worked through a leadoff walk, helped out by another great throw by Luis Torrens, nailing a base runner. He worked through a 2-out hit batsman that inning. He worked through a leadoff hit in the 4th inning, getting that really nifty double play turned by Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor and Brandon Sproat coming over. He was really good for 4 innings. So there's no excusing what happened in the 5th inning. They jumped all over him. They were very aggressive early in the count. They jumped on his fastball. Balls were hit hard. Brandon Sproat blew the lead. No question. But once Hernandez hit that triple or double, fielder's choice, however you want to score it, and it's a 2-2 game with a runner on third and less than 2 outs, even though there was hard contact against him, the ground out by Graham Pauley and the Jacob Marcy ground out that deflected off of Pete to McNeil, back to Pete, which turned into the 3rd run because the runner was moving on contact. Even though the ball was hit hard, Sproat got the ground balls right at defenders. So, yeah, ball was hit hard, not going to deny it. But I am in no rush if I'm Carlos Mendoza to go to this bullpen. I'm in no rush to go to this bullpen because, A, even though it's pitched well recently, you're not going to your best end of the bullpen. It's not like you're going to Edwin Diaz or Tyler Rogers or Brooks Raley. You're staying away from those guys, maybe the entire game, but certainly until the very end. So you're in a rush to go to Gregory Soto. That's who you're in a rush to go to. Or you're in a rush to go to Kevin Herget, who's one of the many guys who's taken that Syracuse train up and down. Those aren't exactly guys you want to be in a rush to go to. So when he gives up the base hit to Augustin Ramirez, I was willing to keep Brandon Sproat in the game. Now, Carlos Mendoza after the game kind of acted like we're all crazy, saying, wow, he gave up 5 hits. There's a lot of hard hit contact. I'm not denying that there wasn't a lot of hard hit contact, but still, it's the 5th inning. His pitch count is low, so you're not worried about that. You're just making the decision in the 5th inning with a runner on first and 2 outs that you have a better shot to get outs from Gregory Soto and eventually Kevin Herget than maybe seeing if Brandon Sproat, who's now only had 1 bad inning and a very bad inning, can find his way through this. I would have given him a couple of more batters, honestly, especially in a spot where there's 2 outs. There's a runner on first. I feel okay that I can get 1 more out. I can get this thing to the 6th inning, and maybe I give him a clean 6th inning, go batter by batter. But why is Carlos Mendoza in a rush to go to the part of the bullpen that you shouldn't trust? Why? Why? I think we've seen enough of Gregory Soto. It's been a mixed bag. I mean, there's been some decent moments, but there's been a lot of bad moments. Why are you in a rush to get Brandon Sproat out of this game? Now, once you make that decision, Gregory, can you do me a favor? What a disastrous performance by Gregory Soto on every level. He comes into this game and immediately doesn't pay attention to Augustin Ramirez. Acts like he doesn't exist. You're a left-handed pitcher. You're staring at the base runner. How do you not know that Augustin Ramirez is going to take off? Are you not watching him? So right away, in a game in which you're down by 2, the game is not over. It may feel like it's over, but it's a 2-run game. 2-run game. You are still in this game. Or I think at this point it was a 1-run game, actually. Yeah, it's a 1-run game. You gave up the RBI on the ground out. Sproat gave up a hit, and you're down by a run. By the way, it is official. The future of the New York Mets is no longer in their hands because the Cincinnati Reds, who lost 2 out of 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates, go into Milwaukee, and they beat them 3-1. And before I continue in this whole conversation, we cannot be mad at the Milwaukee Brewers. We can't say, you bastards. We should be mad at ourselves. The fact that we were in this spot, the fact that now, over the last 2 days of the season, we need major help is all you need to know about the 2025 Mets. So congratulations to the Cincinnati Reds because, A, they're probably going to be the wild card team, but also because they went out in Milwaukee, tough environment, and beat a good team. Good for them. So it's a 1-run game, and Gregory Soto is acting like Augustin Ramirez doesn't exist. The second time Augustin Ramirez is running with 2 outs, so very risky on his part. Oh, hey, look, Gregory Soto realizes. He steps off. It's a little late, but he steps off, and Ronnie Mauricio's got his head up his ass. Carlos, here's the problem. And this is why even somebody like me, who, while I rip a lot of the moves you make, and I've done it a lot here on the Rico, I haven't gone into the dark territory of saying if the Mets miss the playoffs, you should lose your job. I haven't gone there yet, and I don't want to go there. But when we all continue to see these stupid mistakes that are made by everybody, it's only fair to say, is this on the manager and the coaching staff? So these are data points. They're all data points. And the data points are adding up that this manager and this coaching staff is doing an awful job, especially late in the season. Ronnie Mauricio had no idea maybe I should get over and cover third base. These are the kinds of mistakes that this Met team has made daily over the last week. Every day, every game, even in wins, they do stupid things. And so you hand the Marlins a second run. Now we get to Gregory Soto's pitching. He gives up an absolute piss missile to Connor Norby. And you could turn the lights out. The combination, the trifecta of Brandon Sproat losing it, Mendy quickly pulling him, the defense having their head up their ass, and relief pitching like Gregory Soto putting kerosene on the fire turned a 2-0 lead that you felt decent about early into a 6-2 deficit. And for those that were waiting for yet another dramatic comeback, another game in which this team could make up for all the mistakes that they made, well, you're dreaming. And now let's just all be honest with ourselves. They going to win the next 2 games against the Marlins? This team? This team who has no idea who's pitching and getting the next 18 innings. How many outs is that? Let's see. 27 outs in a game. Next 54 outs. You have no idea who's going to get the next 54 outs. Combine that with the fact that the offense will disappear at any moment. They'll give you some big performances. But look at tonight. They scored 2 runs early and disappear for the last 8. And yes, combine that. So let's go over this. Who's getting 36 outs? No one knows. An offense that is as inconsistent as anybody, and a defense that plays with its heads up its rear end. It is not hyperbole to say what we all know. They're bad. And they've been bad for a while. But what we're all doing, and will continue to do, is we just hope. We just hope that maybe they just have enough to get that third wild card spot. Maybe they just have enough. This is not a playoff team. They're only in a playoff race because Rob Manfred added a third wild card and because the Reds and the Diamondbacks haven't grabbed it. That's the only reason. They're 82-78. They are not good. They're not good at a lot of things. But we will continue to hold out hope. And we'll continue to say things like, well, maybe the Reds lose the next 2 games. Maybe the Mets win the next 2 games. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, if they get in, you never know. It's baseball. I've said that many times. But the reality is we know this team is just bad. They've been bad at so many different things. And the manager doesn't have answers anymore. Nobody has answers anymore. Just a putrid loss to the Miami Marlins. I give you one saving grace. One, it's tiny. And it really isn't a saving grace when you wait for the end. We all are haunted, at least any of us that remember 07 and 08, we're haunted by 07 and 08, the 2 collapses against the Miami Marlins. Well, let me tell you a story about the 2 collapses against the Miami Marlins that I'm sure you remember. In all of those series that were mirroring each other, they lost on Friday, and all hope seemed to be lost. I remember 07. When they lost on Friday, they also lost control. But then on Saturday, they had a great victory, and the Phillies lost. I think they lost to the Nationals that day. And so the Mets went from horrors of Friday night, which is where we are now, into, whoa, we have a new life on Saturday. Because the Mets won on Saturday in both years. John Maine, Johan Santana. They got help on both Saturdays. But then, of course, in game 162, they crapped themselves. As they did in the Tommy Glavine game and as they did in the closing down of Shea game. So the bad news is we're effed. The good news is, hey, it looks like Saturday may work out. Or maybe it doesn't. Or maybe history doesn't mean a freaking thing, and this team's just going to lose on Saturday. The Reds are going to win on Saturday, and that's it. And it's over. And the Mets would actually have to have the indignity, and how sad would this be, to play a game 162 in which they're mathematically out of it. Ooh, I have a prediction about that. Let's say that happens. Let's say the Mets lose on Saturday, and then the Reds win on Saturday, which would eliminate the New York Mets, believe it or not. They'd be done. They'd be out. Goodbye. See you later. Juan Soto on Sunday, every time he got on base, he would run. He would run. Juan Soto would be like, I'm getting that 40-40. I'm getting on base. I'm going to steal second. I'm going to steal third. And screw it. If it's late in the game, I'm going to steal home. But we are that close to not only the Mets missing the playoffs, which is the biggest embarrassment in the history of the franchise. I dare you to argue with me about that because you're wrong. To actually playing an irrelevant game 162. It's all on the table. It's all right there. It's all right in front of us. What a disgrace. Hoff, what a freaking disgrace our baseball team is, as they are now on the precipice of a disaster.
I mean, I can't say anything. You've said it all. I mean, literally, you nailed it on every single level, and it is a disgrace. And there's no, by the way, just want to throw this out there. When they don't play a relevant 162, which is back-to-back seasons, by the way, they haven't had to do that. There is not one positive you could take from this freaking season. I'm sorry. There's no, silver lining. And this is not just Mendoza. I know I've been listening to you talk about Mendoza. He's been making a lot of bad plays here, a lot of bad moves, taking Sproat out early. You can go up and down this whole entire game, this whole entire season. There's one major culprit. And I got to be honest, he did such a bad job this year. David Stearns, if you told me tomorrow he'd be fired, I wouldn't be surprised either. It was such a bad job over and over and over. Free agency, trade deadline, not having starting pitchers from the get-go, it's embarrassing. Then you see Zach Gallen pitching a great game for the Diamondbacks today. Sandy Alcantara today for the Miami Marlins pitching a great game. And we have Brendan Sproat, who I love, going to be a great prospect next year. Nolan McLean, next year. What about this freaking year? A year that they were supposed to be in the playoffs, supposed to be competing for a World Series run. Instead, we're going to be the laughingstock. We're going to be the Detroit Tigers. I can't take that, dude.
Yeah, it's look, David obviously did everyone's done a terrible job. I mean, I guess the individual seasons that we saw of the four core guys, they did their job. But obviously, David Stearns building this team, it's been miserable. And as we sit here in the final series of the year, think about what the rotation is. You talked about it. Nolan McLean, and literally pray for rain. I mean, I know that was the whole Warren Spahn, Johnny Sain thing back in the day, but it's true because they have one starting pitcher. That's where we are at the end of this season. One. Brandon Sproat was making his fourth major league start. And obviously, this manager had so little confidence in him, he pulled him in the fifth inning. Jonah Tong, not ready. David Peterson, done this year. Clay Holmes, a four-inning pitcher. Sean Manaea, I don't know what he is right now with the thingies in his elbow. They don't really have a rotation. And I think that's what's so scary about Saturday and Sunday. They not only need help from other teams, they're going to have to find a way to win games without starting pitching. Let's go to some of your emails, the ricob@gmail.com. There's a lot. Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing? It's very reminiscent of 2016 when the Mets went back. They went to that wild card series and had the one game, and it felt like, oh, my goodness, even though the Mets are in the playoffs, where are they really going to go? Because they only had one starting pitcher. They had Noah Syndergaard, and everybody else was hurt. The difference is everybody else was hurt. They had good pitching. They had good players. This year, this was just a pile of shit thrown together.
The difference with 2016, and I don't feel positive about 2016 because when they lost to the Giants in the one-game playoff back in the day where it was a wild card game, I remember leaving Citi Field that night saying we weren't really in the playoffs. We were here for 30 seconds. It doesn't even count. But that was a team that fought its way into the playoffs. They earned their way into the postseason. We all thought they were done in late August. They got hot at the right time. Cespedes got hot at the right time. And you're right, they didn't have a lot of pitching. I mean, it was basically Robert Gazelman, Seth Lugo, Noah Syndergaard, and Bartolo Colon. Actually, when I name the rotation, I'd take that right now.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
That feels like a wonderful rotation. But they fought their way into the postseason before losing a heartbreaker. This team collapsed its way out of a playoff spot. Let's start off with AW. This team has no chance. If by some miracle the Mets make the playoffs, which they won't, but if hell freezes over and there's world peace and the Mets make the playoffs, they'll be done in 2 games. Come on, man. All you have to do is get in. Just get in. Anything can happen. Nope. Not with this team. Because for something to happen, you need major league pitchers. And besides Edwin, Raley, and McClain, this team doesn't have them. You also need guys to play good baseball. They don't. It's not just that Sproat can't go 5 innings and Soto's giving up back-breaking home runs. It's that Pete can't field a grounder to save a run, and Soto's head is so far up his ass, he lets the catcher steal 2 bases on him. Then there's a single. That's another run. And all of this happened before the backbreaker. With this team's propensity for ID offense, it's LD offense. Oh, LD offense. This game is effed. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Reds put us out of our misery by tomorrow. Tell me why I'm wrong. I so want to be. You're not. I mean, there's not. You didn't say anything that was wrong. They don't have pitching. You described, as we did, a lot of mistakes from this game today. And I wouldn't be surprised either if on Saturday night, and think about the way this would go down. The Mets play at 4 o'clock, late afternoon baseball. They lose by 6:15. Then the Reds play. So you would have to sit there, if you choose, and watch Reds Brewers on a Saturday night to officially eliminate the Mets. And even if by some miracle the Brewers win, to not eliminate the Mets, we got to do the whole ordeal on Sunday where not only do the Mets have to win, they probably won't, but they'll need help again. So losing at 4 o'clock on Saturday feels like it's just everything is horrible. Spending my Saturday night watching Reds Brewers, I almost need to put myself out of my misery and go see a movie. And then just have someone call me after and say, hey, good news. Good news.
I got a movie that would cheer you up too. It's called The Terrifier series, part 1, 2, and 3. Look into it afterwards. You'll never forget it, but it may actually put you in a better mood than this team. Put it that way.
I don't know anything about what you mentioned, but I trust you.
Oh, yeah.
Simmer writes, Mendoza has to go. Evan, first time, long time. The errors and mental mistakes keep on happening, and they've gotten worse in the last 2 weeks. If it's not on the manager, who's it on? Even if they make the playoffs, this manager has to go, but we all know how this season is going to end. There's a lot of this. There's going to be a lot of Mendoza emails. I'll keep going. Chris writes, why is Brazoban coming into a 6-2 game? Lord knows we're going to need him tomorrow when the Mets starters inevitably implode again. The team and the manager makes me want to commit a felony. I disagree with you, Chris. Brazoban came into this game in the 7th inning. Aren't you at least trying to keep the game close? I mean, I get they're going to need to use a lot of people on Saturday and Sunday. We all know that. But what are we doing in the 7th inning? Just giving up? Just saying, screw it, we're done? Just go to Kevin Herget, go get me 6 outs? I think in the 7th inning, you're trying to keep the game close. And Brazoban only pitched 1 inning. So I think he's definitely available to pitch on Saturday. I don't think that eliminated him from being available. Craig writes, pain. Being a Met fan is undeniably the most painful, disappointing, frustrating, and sad existence in the world. I'm not even mad anymore because I saw it happening before it even happened. Off-season Ricos before Columbus Day is a depressing thought. Yes. I agree with you. We are going to have an off-season Rico in September. In September! An off-season Rico. And look, I haven't said any of this since opening day. If you go all the way back to opening day Rico, we did an instant reaction after the Mets lost to the Astros. Remember that? And I came clean. And it was the only time I said this over the course of the year. I said, what makes it worse is Yankee fans. What makes it worse is that the Yankee fan is going to rub in Soto struck out in a big spot. And very quickly I got over it. Never mentioned it again here on the Rico. And I don't really care. Never thought about Yankee fans. If the Mets miss the playoffs, and I do want to rephrase that, when the Mets miss the playoffs, the indignity that the Mets stole Soto from the Yankees, we all celebrated. It was caught on tape on the Rico. And the Mets went backwards and missed the playoffs, and the Yankees won over 90 games. This is one of those years, Met fans. I'm going to give you some advice, and you don't have to listen to me. Even if the Yankees get knocked out in the wild card series, stifle it. You got nothing to say. Nothing to say. And in the past, there's a lot to say. Even in like 2004, we sucked, but who cares? Sometimes when you suck, it's easier to talk trash about Big Brother. But when we experience the year we're experiencing, I think you're an idiot if you try to talk trash to a Yankee fan. Like, you're just dumb. Like, you can't read the room. Okay, so that's another negative of this whole thing. Oh, good.
Yeah,
Anthony.
You definitely have to accept it no matter what, dude. It is, and this goes to every single person that sat there and called the Yankees little brother. Everybody that talked trash, get ready. It's coming twofold, and you just got to shut your mouth.
And here's the thing about trash talk. Can the Mets come back next year and win the World Series? Sure. And then you get your receipts. But for now, it's a long year of receipts. It's a long year of shut your mouth, little boy, little girl, and just sit there. Anthony writes, Mullins, and let's address this. What in the world is Mullins doing playing in this game? I can guarantee you that Mendy was told by David Stearns to play him to justify the trade. He is killing us. So, two things about Mullins. We warned you on episode 557 of the Rico. I don't know how many people are consuming all 1 hour and 8 minutes of a Rico. I get it. It's long. It's late. We've been popping out Ricos every single night. I understand it. But we warned you. I warned you. Hey, Cedric Mullins has good career numbers against Sandy Alcantara, 4 for 9 with 2 home runs. It's very possible that this manager plays him. I made it clear last night I didn't want to. I would have stuck with Tyrone Taylor. Mendy didn't use the splits as the reason. He talked about Taylor coming back from the hamstring issue. I don't think either excuse works. I understand that Tyrone Taylor is coming back from a hamstring issue. We all get it. There isn't much time left. You don't have time. Time is not on your side. And I'm pretty sure if you asked Tyrone Taylor, he would have said, play me. Instead, we get Cedric Mullins with the most non-surprising, listless 0 for 3. What an absolute abomination of a trade that was. Oh, my God. Luis writes, how do you bench the 2 players who won the game for us yesterday for Mullins and Mauricio? The loss is on Mendy. Hashtag fire Mendoza, fire Mendoza, fire Mendoza, fire Mendoza, and fire Mendoza. Well, you got one part wrong. They didn't bench Brett Beatty, obviously. That was just simply he got hurt. And unfortunately, I don't know when we're going to see him again. Scott writes, the Mets have so many players that are defensive liabilities. Defensive skills between the Mets and a playoff team like the Cubs is huge, and the results show. The only chance we get in the playoffs is we get a lot of help. Such a disappointing team. Alex writes, I sure hope the Mets can make it out of this weekend alive, but death by a team that has good starting pitching, hits for contact, and plays good defense would be a fitting way for them to go out. No, you're right. The Marlins do everything the Mets don't do, and they've been better by a lot since the middle of June. Catherine writes, they make me sick. Watching this team leaves the population of a small country on base tonight has left me physically ill. The cursed end of September Marlins series strikes again.
And think about the Marlins. I mean, seriously, that 5th inning, I mean, how many hits did they get in a row? They had like 7 base hits or something like that. It was constant. The contact was ridiculous. We dream of innings like that with the Mets. And sometimes they do come through, but just too many times they're just dead.
Way too many times. I mean, way too many times. Kevin writes, Mendy. Seriously, though, the pitching staff is in shambles, and one of the two guys we think can sort of pitch is on the mound, and we rush to take him out. Now what? Beatty gets hurt, so we decide to sub in a guy who hasn't played in 6 weeks. 3, Mullins in center. Enough said. 4, players seem completely checked out at huge moments of the game. 5, you may have to reassess your view on Pete's defense. It's amazing, pun intended, how often his lack of ability to do anything defensively related other than scoop has hurt this team. Tonight, Lindor rips a ball that puts the Mets up 4. Instead, it's caught. Pete gets a chance that cannot move 2 feet to his right, and it sets up the entire inning. Obviously not an error, but that was basically a 6-run play, plus the damage to the bullpen for the rest of the weekend. If he is re-signed, he needs to be a primary DH with occasional starts at first. His ridiculously poor throw to first on a routine grounder is universally seen as the turning point of the season. It's not fair to think that the bad throw to Senga is really the thing that derailed the season. You know what I mean? I know it lines up with it. I get it. It was the day before June 13th and the day before everything went to hell. But I think the other criticisms of Pete are fair. You mentioned the double, and you're right. Actually, I think it was the single by Troy Johnston right after the leadoff hit by Griffin Conine. This was all in the 5th inning that Pete came very close to making a play on. And you're right. Like, Pete was right there. If he makes that play, it's probably a double play, to be honest with you. And there's 2 outs and nobody on, up 2-0 in the 5th inning. So you're right. The game changes on that play. Pete Alonso didn't make it. It's not an error. It's not an easy play. He could have made that play. Obviously, knocking the ball down in the 5th inning led to a run. So his defense was not great in this game. And some of the at-bats I've already talked about. Not driving in a run with a runner on third and less than 2 outs in the 3rd. Striking out in the 8th inning, a very listless at-bat after the Mets are given an extra out on the miscue. Not a good day by Pete Alonso. But I also don't think, and I know this is not the day to fight this fight, but I don't think that circling these moments to say he's a DH is fair either. I think he's an average defensive first baseman. He's not a liability. Now, it's very tough for me to make that argument today because of the defensive miscues that he made, amongst others, but I don't think it's as horrific as one describes it.
It's just bad timing. That's what it comes down to. It's a bad day to have a bad day.
It's a bad day to have a bad day. Yes. Yeah, very well said. K-Nix writes, Evan, ha, 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 ha. That's my message. Now go scorched earth, bro. Brian writes, yet again, we get ahead early and forget how to hit after the 1st inning. Completely inept offense. Mediocre, made a mediocre Alcantara look like a Cy Young version from a few years ago. This team is pathetic. No fault of Sproats. They should have had 6 or 7 runs after 3 innings. The offense kept the Marlins in the game. Pathetic. Pathetic. The Marlins will sweep this series. The Mets pitching the rest of the series is dog bleep, and the pen is gassed. I can't imagine how this team is going to get through the final 18 innings of the season, 16 innings if they lose both games, let alone figure out how to handle this pitching in the playoffs. Pathetic. Just pathetic. We all know what's going to happen and how this story ends. I think we all know they're not going to make the playoffs. I've been putting out Twitter polls every day saying, will the Mets make the playoffs? And it's funny watching the numbers vary. After they won on Thursday night, it actually was a majority saying yes. I haven't felt that way. I think I've been consistent. They're going to miss the playoffs for about a week and a half. I think since the end of the Washington series, or so I guess it's about a week. The end of the Washington series was where it hit me. The one thing we don't know, Brian, we know they're going to miss the playoffs. How? Do they give us the tease? Do we get your traditional Marlin tease? Or are they actually put out of their misery on Saturday? Do we actually spend Sunday saying, wow, we're not even going to have to watch? And I got to tell you, I don't even know what I'll do with myself because I'm one of those 162 game guys. For those that are loyal to the Rico back in 2023, when they sold players off and they were mathematically out of it, we still did Ricos. Hoff and I were still doing the series recaps, breaking down these games like losers. if they play 162 and it doesn't matter, like they are out of it. When you combine that with the fact that the Giants are playing, it's a football Sunday. I don't know if I'll watch the game. I don't even know if I'll score it. I'll be so disgusted. Ay, ay, ay. This is where we are. This is the place that we are. Anyhow, let me read one more, because one more rant, and then we'll all go to sleep. And there'll be another Rico on Saturday. The only thing I'm debating, Hoff, and we can talk about this live here, do we do the Saturday Rico after the Met game, or do we wait until after the Reds game and the Diamondbacks game to at least have a better idea of our fate? That's the only thing I am unsure of. What do you think?
I have an idea that it's really up to you and maybe even up to your wife, because it's going to be a long one. I think that we should do a two-parter. I think we should do a quick hit after the Mets game. The Reds game, starts at 7?
It's either 7:30 or 8 o'clock. I'll check the exact time.
So we do a quick hit after the Mets game, especially if they lose. I think that's going to basically be it, right? And then we jump on after the Reds game to kind of finish the story.
The Reds-Brewers game is 7:15. The Diamondbacks-Padres game is 8:40. So that's the situation. Do me a favor.
If the Diamondbacks lose today, though, and are you watching that?
No.
Okay, I just got to ruin it for you. Tatis Jr. just hit a grand slam. It's
wow. It just popped up on my screen. I have the MLB app out, but not the game. So now I see it. It went from 2-1 Arizona to 5-2 San Diego. Yeah, it really is Cincinnati. Not that Arizona won't come back and win this game, but the Reds are the problem, because the Mets still control their future on the Arizona Diamondbacks, even if Arizona won this game, because the Mets would still be a game ahead. The issue is Cincinnati. So I think your idea is very nice. I don't think I'm going to go for it, though, because I've given enough Ricos and enough time. Ask the people live in the YouTube chat.
All right.
Should the Rico be right after the Mets lose or right after the Reds win? That's how I'll phrase it. After the Reds game or after the Mets game? While we figure that out, here's Justin. He wants to rant. The team is lifeless and changes are needed. Here are his 7 changes. Are you ready? Fire Mendoza and hire a hard-nosed manager, though they don't really exist anymore. Number 2, they will not fire Stearns, but a GM under him to run baseball ops. 3, trade the crap prospects for whatever they can get. Beatty, Vientos, Acuna, Mauricio, pick one and run with them. Number 4, sign offensive first one-year guys to hold center field and second base until Benj and Williams are ready. Number 5, still sign Pete Alonso. Number 6, trade Kodai Senga. And number 7, sign or trade for an ace. I love the fact that we're thinking of next year.
So it's a tight result, but I think this is what we should do. And someone gave a really good suggestion. Join the Reds game around the 7th inning.
Fair enough. I will accept that. The Met game is at 4. Figure it's over by about 6:40. The Reds game is 7:15. Figure they're in the 7th by about 9 or so. So I think what I would tell everybody out there, especially those that want to drink the tears, I would say prepare for about a 9:30, 9:15 Rico Brogna on Saturday night. Gives us a chance to watch the Mets, gives us a chance to cry, gives us a chance to watch a little bit of the Red. By the way, here's how much of a hypocrite loser I am. Earlier in the podcast, I'm saying, boy, if the Mets lose, I should go see a movie. Not even watch the Reds game. It took about a half hour before it's like, oh, we're going to do a podcast. We're going to be potting in the middle of it. Should be fun.
Are we going to have like a random Drunk Rico episode or no?
I think that may happen, yes. I think if the Mets lose, that's probably going to happen. It will turn into an impromptu, we collapsed, we suck, baseball embarrassment, Drunk Rico Brogna.
They're really going to lose, aren't they? They're going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, they're going to miss the playoffs. The reason I have felt that way for, I guess, a week, as I said, is because sometimes the information is just too much to overcome. They have been bad for a while. Like, they have just been a bad baseball team for so long. And when you win the way you win Tuesday, and then you get your ass kicked Wednesday, and you win the way you win Thursday, and you get your ass kicked today, this is what they do. And, I mentioned this stat on the air on WFAN earlier in the day. And I know the Marlins are better than us. Like, they are. They're a better team. As crazy as it sounds, they are. They've been a better team since June. And look at the standings. It's not like we're separated by a lot. There's a 4-game difference between the Mets and Marlins. If this season continued for another 2 weeks, they'd pass us. But in the last 6 series the Mets have played against teams currently in the postseason, the Mets have won 5 of the 6 series. They beat the Cubs. They beat the Padres. They lost to the Phillies, but they beat the Phillies. They beat the Tigers. They have won series against playoff teams. In the last 7 series they've played against non-playoff teams, they've lost 6 of them. So this is a team that shows you, hey, we're capable of beating good teams. They have. And then they consistently lose to teams that they're supposedly better than. They lost 3 out of 4 to the Marlins last month. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Nationals twice. I mean, once in late August while I was on vacation. I remember that. And then recently, they lose to these teams they're not supposed to, even though the reality is maybe they should because they're not that good. Either way, set your calendars, follow the WFAN YouTube page. If you want to do this stuff live, which I know with a lot of these reactions, it's more live than it is downloading the podcast, but certainly download the podcast wherever you can, wherever you want. Have it on your phone, listen to it whenever, laugh at us, cry with us. That's up to you. But on Saturday, game number 161, the Mets will play at 4. The Reds will play at 7:15. We are scheduling about a 9 to 9:30 Rico Brogna. So be ready if you want to join us for that. Now try to get some sleep. And remember, I've said this a few times. This is very, very important. Okay? Be serious for a second. This sucks. This is awful. But Tommy Glavine once said this. In fact, he said this right after he completely imploded in game 162 in 2007. It's just baseball. It's all right. Life's more important than that, right? You got family. You got animals. You got, hopefully family you love. Like, all right, this sucks, but whatever. Yeah, that's my inspirational speech at the end of this Rico. Thank you very much for listening, downloading, and hanging out with us on another horribly depressing edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.